UEFA Champions League final is set, and we have PSG, Paris Saint-Germain, going up against Inter Milan at the Allianz Arena. An incredible game awaits us as both teams have gone on an incredible run so far to get to this point. Inter Milan just now defeating Barcelona, knocking them out in stunning fashion. Extra time goal from the one and only Fratesi to knock out this on-fire Barca side, whereas PSG took care of business against a very hopeful and optimistic Arsenal team, and they now find themselves in a final setting. PSG seeking their first ever UEFA Champions League trophy, and Inter Milan seeking their first trophy in over 15 years in the UEFA Champions League. What has been an insane European campaign finally comes to an end with these two teams facing off against each other, my friend.
I'm buzzing. I am buzzing. I've been waiting for this specific game for 3 months now because I think I know what's going to happen. I hope that we see history on Saturday. Because I think what's going to happen is we see PSG lift their first Champions League trophy in their club's history. A club that has been hunting for this trophy specifically for the last 12 years. It's been failure after failure after failure. They got close in 2020, the bubble year against Bayern Munich. They made 2 semifinals, couldn't get past those stages. But now they're here again in another final. Messi couldn't do it. Neymar couldn't do it. Zlatan couldn't do it. Mbappe couldn't do it. Cavani couldn't do it. No? But maybe Dembele's PSG can.
Wow.
And I think we're going to see history happen Saturday. Folks, 2 p.m. in Germany, Munich, at the Allianz Arena. I think PSG are going to lift their first title, and I cannot wait to witness it. I think they're the best team in the calendar year of 2025. I think they've showcased it on and off the pitch throughout League One. They've won everything. They've won the Coupe de France. They won the French Super Cup. They're going for the clean sweep, my friend. And all they need left awaits them on Saturday. I cannot wait, bro. I cannot wait. And just the entertainment value, too. We're seeing two of the best clubs go at it. Inter Milan themselves, we'll talk about them later. They're a very, very good side. But PSG, PSG, I cannot wait to see it.
So you're back in PSG here.
100%, there's not a doubt in my mind.
You're picking against Inter Milan.
100%, there's not a doubt in my mind.
Let's just make some things clear. Let's address some things. Before we get into the tactical breakdown of this incredible matchup, let's make some things very, very clear here, okay? Because the last time that we did a Champions League recap, comment section was full. Comment section was active. We had countless messages, DMs all over. I even got an email about it, bro. Why isn't Soltero mute? Oh, you must address these allegations. Because, for one thing, I think the things that were said might have been a little misunderstood. Do you agree with this?
Oh, 100%. I was going to mute myself to save the Barca fans from me.
I think people forget that I was the one that was back in Barca, by the way. Yeah. I was the one that switched up like at the quarter and said, I'm going Barca all the way. So if anything, I was the one that really took a hit there. But still, what I also want to make a clear point of is, I cannot let this man go mute for 7 days because this is our jobs and this is how we make a living. All right. So I need him to be talking a little bit. So this is what I'm going to propose going into a final setting where it seems very, very clear that you're going PSG over Inter Milan. I'm offering up a double or nothing situation here for some funsies. Hopefully people can see this as a compromise. But what I'm going to offer up to you is this. If Inter Milan defeats PSG, a team that you're so sure is going to win the tournament, a team that's been playing such beautiful football, a team that you see destined to lift their first Champions League trophy. If Inter Milan knocks them out after having knocked out a Barca team that both of us had selected, I gain access to this controller. All right?
What's that do?
You know what this remote control does? Are you aware of the capabilities this remote control has?
I see Netflix. I see Amazon. It's a powerful remote.
Brother, there's a mute button. There's a mute button on this controller. And if Inter Milan, who is my selection to win this matchup, wins this game, I gain access to this remote control for 1 week. And that means at any point that you're giving a take, that we're in a debate, that we're in a heated moment, I can press this button and you get silence, my friend. PSG loses, I get this remote and I'm not letting it go, my friend. I am not letting it go. Is that an offer you accept?
This is the easiest offer I could ever take because PSG are winning on Saturday. I'm not scared. Right here.
All right, bet. All right, here we go then. That'll be fun. That'll be real fun if I gain access to this. And now I'm even more incentivized to see Inter Milan win this game. Let's get into the breakdown because I have some questions regarding both these teams and what we expect to see once that whistle sounds off and we see them kick off at the Allianz Arena. Let's start with PSG specifically. I mean, just kind of going through the lineup that they're probably going to have.
Yeah.
I see that they started Barcola in the Coupe de France instead of Kvaratskhelia. And Barcola went off, man. A player that's been benched essentially for Kvaratskhelia in these big moments. Does he keep his spot now going into the final, or does Kvaratskhelia get that spot back? Who ultimately ends up being the front three for PSG in this game?
I think it'll be Kvaratskhelia. I see the Coupe de France as an opportunity to give that next bench player the opportunity to start. You know, you see managers give the second choice goalkeeper usually opportunities in these types of tournaments. Not that Barcola is second tier at all, but if Kvaratskhelia is going to start in the Champions League, why not give Barcola that starting position in the Coupe de France? But we're going to see Bradley play. He's going to come off the bench, especially if PSG need a goal. But I see Kvara starting over Barcola.
Yeah, and then obviously paired up alongside Dembele, who something that excites me personally in the build-up to this game is that Ballon d'Or narrative that has joined Dembele in the past 3-4 months, absolutely going off. Can he get his moment in the big stage? You know, kind of how we saw Vinny, who didn't win it last year, but, you know, had that Champions League final moment that basically put him up to be able to compete with Rodri's incredible year. Does Dembele get that moment with a beautiful assist, a beautiful goal, or just a great overall performance? Because in final settings, Dembele's had some shaky performances. We can't forget the 2022 FIFA World Cup final. But obviously this whole year has been about his resurgence, changing the history that he's been known to have made in the past. Can he do something different this time around in the biggest stage for his team, for his own personal narrative, and for the hopes of the Ballon d'Or, man? That's going to be a fun thing to watch for in this front line.
Yeah, absolutely. And watching PSG, watching their knockout stage campaign, Dembele's been clutch. I see him going off in this final. You know, obviously, maybe it's a goal or an assist, but whatever it is, he's going to provide and have a major impact offensively for PSG. He's in his prime. I've never seen Dembele be this consistent and be this dangerous offensively. He's going to show up against Inter Milan. You'll have Kvaratskhelia providing dribble penetration, Dembele being able to come deep inside, get the ball and sling out passes or provide dribble penetration himself. And then on the other side of Dembele, dude, Doué.
Yeah.
It's going to be Desiree Doué.
If he gets his moment, man.
Exactly. One of the biggest standouts of the season. He's been cold as well. This entire PSG offense has been so threatening from every single angle. It's because everyone's in form, and Doué is a part of this.
Yeah, and then I think the rest of the team writes itself. It's very, very predictable. Ruiz, Vitinha, Neves in the midfield, Mendes, Pacho, Marquinhos, Hakimi in that back line, and then Donnarumma, who's had an incredible year so far, as the goalkeeper. The narrative, though, is in that midfield. Who dominates the midfield against this Inter Milan side? We saw Barcelona maintain the possession against Inter Milan, but Inter Milan almost in a way wanting that from Barcelona, wanting for them to buy into the idea that they're letting them possess the ball, letting them control the game, but then like a snake, they bite back on those counterattacking opportunities. They're clinical. They finish their chances off. Is it going to be a little bit of the same thing here? Because I think I do envision PSG being on the ball more, slinging more passes, just completely dominating the ball, but, you know, Inter Milan looking to pounce on the counter.
Yeah, I would not be surprised at all if this game ends up being very similar to the Inter Milan-Barcelona match where they just go back and forth as far as trading goals. This game ends 2-2, maybe it goes into extra time. Because we know PSG, their defense is all right. What has kept them in matches is Donnarumma, and he might be the difference maker. But I see PSG conceding goals against this very clinical Inter Milan side. But as you already stated, I also see PSG having more of the ball. And when PSG have the ball, they're going to score at least 2 goals. So this could be a really high-scoring affair, or maybe it ends up being very, very tight. But either way, I do think PSG will have the edge, especially in possession.
Yeah, I'm just so curious. I'm so curious to see how Inter Milan, in comparison to all the other matches that we've seen, which have finally left been Premier League teams, Liverpool, Arsenal, Aston Villa, I'm so interested to see how Inter Milan approaches this PSG team. I think it's a different flavor. It's a different type of style. I think the best counterattacking team that PSG has faced was that Liverpool squad that they ultimately shut down completely. Inter Milan kind of poses the same type of threat with less of an ability on the ball than what Liverpool had. Thing is, I mean, what I saw in that Barcelona matchup was ridiculous, bro. Being able to score 6 goals for as trash as Barca's defense is, some of those goals were class, man.
Oh, yeah.
Thuram is playing at the highest level I have ever seen him at, scoring some amazing goals. Lautaro looks like a killer, ready to go and kill and finally redeem those demons of having lost that initial Champions League appearance that he had against Manchester City. Here's his chance for revenge. And then the wingbacks, bro. What kind of impact do they have in this matchup? Dumfries was possessed against Barcelona. Possessed. And he was an absolute riser. Player that I kind of underestimated going into that game and ultimately ended up becoming a complete difference maker for this Inter Milan side. He was incredible. And then Di Marco ultimately did what he was able to do despite Yamal's incredible performances. At the end of the day, he held his own, and he got his team through. So you got to give it to Di Marco, Çalhanoğlu, Barella, Mkhitaryan is going to be in the midfield. And then the defense is also the biggest factor, one of the more interesting factors for this Inter Milan team. What can they do to slow down this incredible top 3 from PSG? Because they're coming off of a really good performance against Barcelona in the biggest stage, the biggest moment this entire year. Yes, they didn't slow them down because they still conceded 5 goals. But ultimately, when it mattered most, in those last 10, 20 minutes in extra time, Barca could not break them. And Inter Milan's defense came through with guys like Bastoni, Acerbi, Bisek. They still have De Vrij on the bench as well if you want to go with him. And Jan Sommer to counter the incredible saves that Donnarumma is probably destined to make in this game. I think the defense and the front two that they have are big pieces for why Inter Milan can compete in this game.
They'll definitely be able to compete. But as we saw against Barcelona, yes, they held them back as well as they could, but they still conceded 6 goals. It's an insane amount. I actually consider PSG to have a better offense than Barcelona and also a better midfield than Barcelona. I think the difference will be Donnarumma because PSG also have a better goalkeeper than Barcelona. So Inter Milan's going to concede goals. I don't think they can prevent that. And I do see Inter Milan scoring. But at the end of the day, for me, the analysis is really simple. If Barcelona, Inter Milan went down to the wire, I think this game can too, but I see PSG as a more complete team than Barcelona. So that's why overall, Inter Milan will compete and they're going to make it tight, but PSG for me just have the edge in all 3 lines on the pitch and then add in Donnarumma's form.
No, yeah, I can agree with that. I think finals can be weird. They can be really weird, and you rarely see teams actually play the way that they have in the build-up to the final. You rarely see them play that way in the final outside of the great teams. Maybe that's what this PSG team is. Maybe that's what they're going to end up showing us in this game, but I wouldn't be surprised if Inter Milan gets an early goal the same way they went up against Barcelona in that first leg 2-0 off of just a counter or a mistake. And then things get really tight, things get really hairy for PSG, and that curse breaks in. And we remember that before this year, PSG was a joke when it came to the Champions League because of choke jobs, because of the inability to close out games. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the thing that ultimately Inter Milan tries to play towards. It's kind of like getting an early goal in the first 20, 30 minutes, getting PSG nervous and getting them out of their rhythm that we've seen them just absolutely dominate in when they're able to tap into it. I think finals are weird, and that's really what you have to play into if you're Inter Milan.
Absolutely. That's actually a great point. PSG don't have the history of really showing up when it really matters. Those semifinals, that crazy round of 16 against Barcelona, they got knocked out in the quarterfinals 4 years in a row at one point. But I do think this PSG's team's different. But that's the point. That's actually a great point. They're going to have to prove it for the first time in their club's history. But you know why I'm also very, very excited? The games in Munich.
What a stadium, bro.
The games in Munich. Have you heard of the mysterious magic that occurs in Munich?
Well, let me think. Mysterious magic. So we had a World Cup. We had big World Cup games in Munich in 2006. We had when was the last Champions League final there? I'm actually going blank, so I can only go into international games. But right off the bat, nothing's popping up. What am I missing?
Let me enlighten you.
Doesn't involve Mexico, right?
No. It's only Champions League. This actually shocked me. The history is actually on PSG's side going into this match.
Okay.
Only one other French club has lifted the Champions League trophy one time. That was Marseille
right.
in 1993. The game was held in Munich. That's just the beginning. There have been 4 previous Champions League finals held in Munich. Okay. 4. 1979, Nottingham Forest won it. 1993, Marseille won it. 1997, Borussia Dortmund won it.
Okay.
2012, Chelsea won it. All 4 of those winners, it was their first time winning the Champions League.
Whoa.
PSG have not won.
Whoa.
And they're playing a final in Munich this Saturday at 2 p.m. Central Time.
So this is where teams come to lose their Champions League virginity.
Yes.
Damn.
What better place to do it? What better place to do it for PSG than in Munich?
Or for Inter to win it after 15 years, man.
Nah, they've already won it 3 times.
I know they have, but bro, it's basically felt like they've never won it at this point. Inter Milan has been thirsting for it that badly, man. Spiritually, it'll be the same for these people, man.
I still
Especially the way they blew the Serie A.
team.
Yeah, of course. But, man, the way they lost Serie A this year, I think they really want this trophy. This is what they're focusing on. It'll be a big, big victory for them if they get it. But obviously, numbers-wise, it isn't the same as PSG. That's tough to argue against history there. That's tough. And it's scary. But it gives even more reason for why Inter Milan can operate as a snake that they've been this entire Champions League run, be doubted basically in every match that they've been in,
True.
and then just sneak away with the result, and they might sneak away with that trophy behind closed doors against this PSG team that is better on paper, is my prediction.
I actually love the matchup, though. It's a great prediction because Inter Milan have proven that it doesn't matter really who they face. They also figure it out in the similar way that PSG has. That Bayern team they face, very feisty. Inter Milan were clinical. And we already talked about the Barcelona game. It was an immediate UCL classic, and they ended up on top. That win was one of the most impressive wins I've ever seen from an Italian club in my life. So this is going to be a hell of a game. PSG, Inter Milan. I just think the offense of PSG, adding Donnarumma's form, is going to be enough for PSG to lift their first title.
Give me the single sentence takeaway in regards to legacy and reaction. What happens if PSG wins the UEFA Champions League? Single sentence takeaway.
I'll give you one word. Relief.
Damn.
This will give so much relief to every single Parisian that exists.
Yeah.
Because finally it will be over.
Yeah.
Since the Qatari owners came in 2011, they had one goal and they spoke it into existence when they bought the club. They said, we want to put funds into this club to win the Champions League. And that's been their goal ever since. And now maybe finally, 14 years on, the goal will finally be met.
That's complete relief, bro. It's a breath of fresh air. The air in France will just feel better. You just breathe more. You live longer if you go to France for the following next year after this PSG victory. What's the single sentence takeaway if Inter Milan wins it? What is it? Inter Milan hoisting that trophy. That beautiful black and blue. Inzaghi, Lautaro Martinez, Marcos Thuram, Barella finally getting his moment. What's the single sentence takeaway if Inter Milan does the incredible here?
Inter Milan would be the best Italian club in the modern era of football.
Ooh.
Juve got really close, but they couldn't lift the Champions League trophy. Inter Milan have been to a final. They got very close. They took City all the way. Very tight game. They lost. They got to another final very quickly after that final against City. And if they were to win it, I think they would prove that in the modern era, they would be the best Italian club, especially since you could say the modern era started when they won it.
Yeah, dude, that's a great point, dude. I think that's great for both sides, honestly, what's on the line here. It's real shit, bro. It's real shit that's going to happen on Saturday, man. We're not playing around with this. So, folks, that's the takeaway. That's the tactical analysis. Those are the predictions. Let us know, who do you have winning the UEFA Champions League final? It's between PSG, Inter Milan at the Allianz Arena. We will be here for the reaction. Submit your predictions down below, and we'll catch you guys very, very soon. Peace.